Macrame was released by Poor Claudia. Polar Parade was released from Gray and Ghost Press. Ice Poems forthcoming from Double Cross Press. And be on the lookout for poems in Jubilat, Sentence, Interrupture, and Spinning Ginny. Please welcome Paige Taggart.
Hi everybody. I'm going to get tired up here because my back is sore, and the only way for it to feel better is if I flex my ab muscles. So I'm going to be like flexing and reading at the same time. It's going to be like a workout. Awesome. So that's my intro to myself. So I'm going to read certain pages from a really long poem. It's like a book-length poem that I've been writing on the B train. So it's called the B Notebook. I handwrite it and then type it up. Through rows of bodices, legitimate oars, bodies or are swallowed by time. We from a tube, all this tunnel together, not an impressionistic representation of genetics on display. Tiger's eyes strung on a cord. We are of underworld. You hearth, locked down here. We swing bodice over bar, hug the tracks. This is an ice cream cone until it melts. As hyperbolic figment, we rush the core of others. I always look outside my office for a system to more or less believe in. A spinal tap of urban umbrella. A sub porno genre. The indigo lights color my eyes with their ways. How each moment is a studied prism bequeathed to a man with false eyelashes. I hand my bag over. It's a dirt bag to the policeman. He tussles my stuff and reaches deep into my jewels. Every 5 men get by passing for a sailor. I leaned to give an almond to a child. The bust of drug alerts spread through the pathway, and men fell and became entwined and thus chained. And the chain of events candidly carry on. Each one is arrested and put into a hollow tree that they then fill with rage. The energy is so thick it seeps out. It's like a resin hardening into the interior bark of what will become artifact. And like many other humans, these leak into the underworld. They stand in the way of traffic, an entire pool of naked bodies laid out into a crown. With this, the crown becomes a monument to climb. You can buy that. That's always what you least suppose. If further on down the line we meet again in a stairwell or in a cafe, will we again submit ourselves to the epic and endless questions? Blotting out refusals with ink-stained tissues of I'm sorry, I should have known better, I promise I'll never behave this way again. Would we attend one another's funerals? Are you embarrassed that I saw you naked before you felt confident in your body? Should have known better and kept the pale taste of light coming into the window off limits. Should I have called in a line of civilians for questioning, lined up their bodies in heap of bone fab? If people all rejected their bodies, sold them to be carved through, and then filled with felt, would the remaining half still have an easy time greeting one another on the train, saying hello without all those felts inside? Others who around those felt-filled people would probably become actual dummy wax and plastic, and their souls would hover above all at once in dilemma space, neither purely of the clouds or entirely of the land, like a million riddled hovercrafts parting the air. And the shifts in wind slap the real walking around people in the face. We brace ourselves for the fall of others felt, for them to become unromantic, puffed up genies from a bottle, white fleece rolling along the mountainside near the sheep shearer's farm. An annual achievement of the collector who succeeds in gathering the most fleece for an artist fair competition. And others win a prize for the most splendid quilt that looks as close to the land as possible. Who knows how close to look? And afterwards, they probably lust after another's creation, like how you want to be invited inside my poem, but you're already here and you're welcome and have a good day. But enough about me, let's talk about you. When's the last time you had Earl Grey tea? Do you have a pet? I don't talk to New York City enough. That's why I envy that there used to be jobs called operators, with live humans speaking across the line. Hello, operator, please. Speaking. Can you connect me to Judith Butler? Ding-a-ling, ring-a-ling-ling. Where did my beer go? Oh, did I not bring it up here? Okay. I was going to take a beer break. We want what we can't have aside from what we already have and still want, my friend. I said your time will come. You'll pre-game, then go ride a bike toward a rather magnificent vortex. It'll take a small fee to make the most of your money, which doesn't really make much sense, because you think that once the act was put at stake that someone would come over and try to incorporate their funds in as well. Like a medieval game of lancing, or up in the Metal Gear, so hot and panically, like an iron person put on top of your person, or a radiator stuck inside a ventilator, chartreuse and lounge. Like pushing over a statue whose entire dependence lies on resting its base on a pinnacle. Your face against the sun, laughing and crying in Hebrew. One non-committal earbud, the window conjoining another window, both look out into the same thing. You are both a francophile and a spiritual yeti. The house, its sharp insistence on raising children. The apartment, not a duplex or a laundromat. His hands look too fragile to clean. The takeout food is getting expensive. I insist on practical magic anytime I can. A validated ceremony where the swan can be opened and turned sideways into a keyhole to let a little person out of a box after you've been stuffing pellet food through the bars to feed a rabbit that is white is both human and animal. The animal of another with the other body quilted on top of the original body. A quill pricked with ink, minus the incessantly therapeutic ways that writing something is actually straightening it out, organizing the gene pool in my body before I even decide if I want children or not. While I'm writing this out of me and thinking about turning 30, I am also thinking of how my friend tagged a picture of me where I was not. I didn't want to be in control anyways, forgetting as a relief, almost as something to trick yourself into and then be made free of the thing that at an earlier time had given you so much torment. It's not a complete mistake to exist altogether, so far as we can tell, but actually it can be almost harmful, unhealthy to function in a way where we want to let some people in and push others out. The mere decision to decide that some are worthy of our friendship and that others either smoke ass or don't make appropriate use of our time. Not in an elitist punk academic way, but more to configure what a soul clutch and crunching is. Opposite forces a la gare. It was almost an accidental fault the night I slipped into the landscape and became all bamboo. A tongue of disproportionate watching. An almost even train of thought. How what is most close to me I cannot draw from. The water, the will, or the way. Each a separate message, however handsome and endearing it is, that is what I cannot say. Fog would like to slip around a scene, at least that's something I can for sure predict. Between the crowding of a disappearance within the first recollection of it, you can't necessarily come to say how you've realized something has gone missing, and the monstrosity of this force, almost paralyzed like a gatekeeper missing his key, or how we had no customs documentation to allow us access back into our country. The twin towers of devastation, the inverse of beauty. A missing thing becomes a tiny capsule muttered at nearly inexplicable depth. I have broken through the third wall, and now tear recklessly within. All these fragments become shattered hopes, the way what you decide never actually works as planned. I've got taken. I govern the laws of science. I know what is and isn't plausible based upon three things: experience, science, and particular experiences. This isn't to say I've imagined the richness of sorts to be idolized, or that my upbringing has been brought upon as a glittering frame of pan for frame. An accomplishment, as a task, at the head of all audacious thinking. Whenever the time comes, my thoughts fall awfully redundant, like what we bring to life might always be slightly Frankensteinian, fraught with harm of invention. Humans need to leave most things alone as we lead on life for more than just ourselves. I put the poem into a fanatical position, as with pungent odor, adaptation can be difficult. However, when the crossbeam of reckoning is also our shelter, we can't really complain without any real room to say, suppose we got to the deepness. People hammer away at the balcony, disassemble the furniture to make a fury. The coast on one side, my folks on the other. I stand abridged and get up during every intermission. I'm not afraid to forget things that happened to me. My bank account is secure. I'm not afraid of the things that have happened to me. I'm not afraid of people. The people aren't afraid of me. I don't blame them, though, if they start to be, especially when I near their territory. When I get up close in their face and speak really clearly about potentially difficult topics. I'm not afraid to see their faces turn from pale to red, from red to purple, from purple to blue. They lose all feeling and the head, blimp-like, dislocates. They are the colors that I am losing in my own face. They are the colors that I have tried to use with my oil paints and pre-war canvas, my slick water and identical use of chemical displacement. Separated components, cake of bird, their spill. I am not without religious exemption. I am a poet, I go against the sheep. I am lit by crawl and fabric. I warn you, do not be confused by this buttress I've built. It is ancient, and from the sexless wars. It is affluent and stands tall with recognition. It's gorgeous with colors and build. I'll put a footnote here. SOS flag, Red Cross. You can rely on this for next time you become stranded. And in case you have cell phone reception, you can call me. My number is 707-486-0260, and I'll try to rescue you. However, if I am trapped underground in the subway, there is nothing you can do about it. I don't get service, and I'm not your responsibility. Although I wouldn't mind if you are able to rent snorkeling gear so that you could come to the part of the train that is inside an underwater tunnel, and if you could break through to me. That too would be appreciated. I understand if this is impossible, but I feel improved through communicating this idea. I am like an underwater lamb that learned to sign language and purchased a disposable camera encased in thick plastic. I think cosmetic damage makes some people more beautiful, like tropical weather or a beat-up Benz. Say that I have many doubts about the human condition, and that situations keep arising, washing ashore in the capitalistic spiritualism of today's people, and their behavior only increases the persistent uncertainty, causing it all to swell inside me in elliptical bullets of more questioning, more sadness, for the same way that humans continuously let one another down. A broad spectrum of light flashing before us, all aboard, and we continue to deprive one another. I'm an insular being, the kind you don't want to get close to, like wearing a white mohair sweater to a funeral. You don't want to hug me. My white little hairs will fasten to your black cotton and create a bandwidth of anxiety. I left my sticky roller in the car, and we are on a rock, and I'm copying every word you say, acting like a teenager. Copycat isn't fun for you, but it's fun for me. I take out a Snickers bar in the shape of our president, and you bite into it. Then the photo shoot looks like a big Black Mountain College gathering, full of poets with ill-worn sweaters and projective shapes tooling their speech out of their mouths. From behind the single-file line of people, a head pops out, and then another, and then another, and then another, till they are splayed like a fan. My brain is an envelope right now, a crease folded over to be licked and postage away to a far-off land, a place that puts things into perspective, that are filled with words bolder besides my own. The intake of another's letters, that's a stretch on metaphor, the elastic kind. In a midnight bunk, writing a letter to a king with a ponytail, French fries and mistresses. Out of his right mind, fallen off meds, lustful equipment like Tarzan's package. Maybe a branch or two to swing from. I came upon an empty patch where vines used to be. Like king's men who have taken up half the jungle with the large disasters put forth, I try my best to stay calm. I am frozen in an ocean of my own envelopes, without seafaring skills, within marsupial waters, an elastic tongue and white addresses. It takes a motorized lamp to light this message, something strung and hung throughout the jungle. I've caught a thief through a detection of his stamp collection, the ones with ribosomes, robots, rubies, Olympic rings, plants, and bell towers, behind clean plastic in a binder that must have been broken by way of just wanting to do something other than the same old shit. Thank you.